Welcome to Mystery Date, where we dive into the weird, the wild, and the downright puzzling. While our podcast is primarily for entertainment with plenty of laughs along the way, we occasionally discuss serious and sensitive topics. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners, so discretion is advised.
Imagine this: a snow covered tent on a remote Russian mountain, slashed open from the inside. Scattered footprints, some barefoot, leading into the darkness. It's 1959, deep in the Ural Mountains, and 9 hikers, young and experienced, are found dead under bizarre and brutal conditions. Bones crushed, yet no wounds, eyes and a tongue missing, and signs of radiation. This is not just a tragic accident. This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident. So grab your winter coats, because tonight we're setting off straight into the storm of Dyatlov Pass.
I'm Christian.
I'm Kate.
Welcome to Mystery Date. It's date night, meaning we get to talk about all things mysterious and weird in our world.
This season is called Into the Woods, and it involves mysteries surrounding woods, forests, and jungles all around our world.
Tonight's mystery is the Dyatlov Pass Incident, Part 1. That's right, this is a two-parter. Tonight's going to be the story, and the next episode will have all of our theories.
Get comfy, grab your favorite drink, and let's start the show.
Ooh, delicious.
No, these Aldi drinks are so good.
Yeah, go to Aldi for cheap wine. It's great.
Yes.
That's how we're starting this episode. All right, so besides some of the research that I've done and kind of told you about, had you ever heard of the Dyatlov Pass Incident?
No, not until you decided we were doing it for this podcast. You told me we were going to talk about it, and I was like, oh, what's that? And you said, it's when the Russian hikers went missing and died. And I said, oh, okay.
Yep.
That's all I know.
That's what a lot of people know this case as, to be honest. It's been through social media and been found on Facebook. That's how I got first hooked onto this story, is just an article on Facebook that showed a couple of the photos from the expedition. You know how those are, where they like show the black and white photos and then you see a long paragraph text and you read the whole thing and you're like, holy shit, I just spent an hour diving into this.
Oh, yeah. Those things can be intriguing.
Yeah, you find some cool stuff.
I mean, you know how I am. I've seen every documentary on Netflix and most other streaming platforms.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I clearly get hooked on those deep dives of just random, interesting, spooky, weird stories, you know?
No, I get it. And trust me, this story, the reason we're doing it in a two-parter is because this story kind of kicked off my love for mysteries as like a teenager. Again, when I came across it on Facebook.
As a teenager, you have never told me this before.
I might have left it out, but I guess it's like my little hidden Roman Empire. When it comes to mysteries, this is the one that takes the cake of like what I'm most fascinated by.
I don't know what to say.
I feel like I've thrown her a curveball.
I don't know you. Who have I married?
Well, now you know. The Dyatlov Pass Incident is my Holy Roman Empire.
Like, I can't believe that we've been together for almost 13 years, and I have never heard of this until this past month.
Isn't that the purpose of date night?
It's true. We keep the mystery alive for real.
We're learning more about each other every time.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
But no, this was just, it low-key fascinated me. When I say this was the one that like started off my love for mysteries, it's not like I actively researched it that much or anything. It's just anytime I'd come across a YouTube video or a documentary, I'd be like, oh, okay, let me learn more about that one because I remember that.
Okay.
But let's get into it, and everybody grab your winter garb, because tonight we're going to embark on a journey into the majestic, snow-clad mountains of northern Russia, or at the time, this was the Soviet Union. Our story unfolds in the year of 1959, when a daring expedition was conceived by a young student named Igor Dyatlov. At just 23 years of age, Igor was a radio engineering student from the esteemed Ural Polytechnical Institute. He meticulously gathered an intrepid band of 9 fellow adventurers for a skiing expedition across the northern Urals in Sverdlovsk Oblast, and I hope I said that somewhat right. That was then a part of the Soviet Union. It's still there, but I think it's under a different name now that governments have changed. But Now let's talk about a little bit of geography when it comes to Russia and the Ural Mountains and that kind of territory, just so we have a little bit of a familiarity with that. Thankfully, after a quick foray into Google Maps, I've not been to the Ural Mountains, but virtually now I have, so that's about as good as the same thing. So I'll lead us all through it.
Yeah, I can't say I know much about Russia, so.
No, honestly, I don't either. When looking at that through a map, though, I don't know if this is just some neurodivergent thing going on in my brain or what, but the only thing I could think of is there's just so many rivers and like small lakes in this pocket of geography. It's kind of wild. I don't know what to do with that information, but while I was looking at this, I was fascinated by that. I'm like, there's just so much going on in these open land areas, and the towns seem a little bit more scattered apart, so you just have a lot of this just open geography just sitting there. It's pretty cool, and that's even today, like. But anyways, getting back to it, the Ural Mountains, affectionately known as the Urals, form a magnificent mountain range that stretches gracefully from north to south, predominantly traversing the Russian territory. So this expedition would meander through the northern sections of this mountain range. That was their goal. From what I gathered, the primary destination of this journey was to go to essentially Mount Orton, which once they hiked that and reached the summit, they would earn their grade 3 certification for hiking in these ski tours. So the whole purpose of this was to summit Mount Orton. And again, by summiting that, they then earn their grade 3 certification.
Okay.
And grade 3 certification at the time was just a designation, essentially, that showcased the different difficulties of hiking paths. So grade 1 would be a pretty easy skiing tour. You're probably just going down some slopes, maybe going through some woods, not much.
Maybe cross country more than downhill.
Yes, yeah. But the more you get up there, the more advanced you're getting into where these aren't just skiing. You're not just going down a slope and then calling it a day. You're hiking miles on skis and on sleds through these dense snow areas to get to certain destinations like they're trying.
Okay, yeah, so it's not just like going to a ski resort and seeing how well you do on the slopes. It's an expedition.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
no, it really is, yeah. It's just most of it takes place on skis because of how much snow there is.
Yeah, I mean, skis/snowshoes are the best way.
And I just wanted to point out, to earn the recognition of a grade 3 certification, you had to traverse an impressive 300 kilometers or 190 miles.
Oh.
Yeah, so in order to get up there, you had to go through quite a little bit of a trial in order to earn that. So it goes to say, with all these 10 souls that were embarking on this journey, they were seasoned and skilled hikers to get to this point.
I mean, yeah, I like to consider myself someone who hikes and enjoys hiking and can handle a fair to moderate level hike. I mean, you know, us and our friends, we've climbed up some random off-trail mountainsides in our parks in our days. So I consider myself a pretty good hiker. I would under no circumstances sign up to hike up mountain 190 miles.
No, not to just earn a certificate. I mean, again, you have to be passionate about this stuff, obviously.
Yeah, my mom can't even get me to do a 5K with her. I'm like, can I just donate the money to the organization? Like,
you can walk them.
I'm like, I'll just support the cause. Like, I'll come cheer you on. I'll support the cause. I'll donate. You know,
Why do I gotta do this?
Why do I gotta go run?
Why do I gotta get all physical? That's not fun. Okay, so back to it. Again, they would claim their grade 3 certification by summiting the storied Mount Orton, nestled within the Urals. But before we dive any deeper into that and what happened on that mountain, let's take a moment to meet the people behind the headlines. These weren't thrill seekers or novices. They were experienced hikers, and they were real people, students, scientists, and friends. Each one had their own story, and they deserve to be more than just a part of this mystery. First up, we have the intrepid leader, Igor Dyatlov, age 23. Igor was a student of radio engineering at the Ural Polytechnic Institute, and Igor was known for his meticulous planning and calm leadership. He was a natural organizer, and this wasn't his first expedition. He had completed several hiking trips in the Ural Mountains before, and his peers respected him not only for his intellect, but also for his ability to make decisions in a lot of pressure-fueled situations.
Yeah, always a good thing to have around, especially in a leader.
Exactly, right?
Works well under pressure.
Igor's leadership would prove crucial in the planning stages of this expedition, as he ensured the group was well prepared for their journey, and they had a lot of their rations, money, and pretty much took care of all of the planning when it came to this.
And you said he had already hiked these mountains before?
Yeah, maybe not the same exact route. I couldn't find that.
In the Ural Mountain
Yeah, but in the Ural Mountain range, yeah.
Okay, so he was at least somewhat familiar with this mountain range.
Oh, yeah. And they were all part of a sports club at the university, so I could believe that this sports club probably does this pretty frequently.
Yeah, well, and especially if something like this is what's needed to get certified at level 3.
Exactly.
Then it's probably not the first people who have ever done this or been hiking on these mountains.
No, and as a matter of fact, I think at the summit, once they get there, the whole goal for them is to place a note from their group that is essentially like, yes, we've done this, and I believe other people have done that completed their grade 3 certification. So other people definitely have been here. It's just the specific route they're taking, I do believe, was more or less kind of improvised by Igor.
Okay. Yeah, it almost sounds like a fraternity type of thing.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
The tent that they use, a little fun fact, was built by a lot of these members at the sports club. It's like a long tent that was fastened from other smaller ones. But since it's only one, it's a lot lighter to carry, and it can fit everybody inside with a nice stove to keep them warm.
Oh, that's true. And then they could just kind of have one person carry it at a time and then pass the load off throughout the day of hiking.
Yep, instead of trekking along.
Every single person having to carry their own load of tent.
Yeah, because we'll see later on in the story, their load and how much equipment they're carrying does come into play during their hike.
Okay.
So clearly it's something that's thought about.
They're not just kids going on a hike. They are prepared and experienced and ready.
Oh, yeah. Next up, we have Yuri Doroshenko, age 21. And Yuri was a powerfully built guy who, get this is all true, by the way, fought off a bear with a geologist's hammer. And no, again, that's not a tall tale. Yuri's bravery was legendary amongst his friends, which I can see why.
He fought off a bear?
With a geologist's hammer. I don't think he won the fight, technically. I'm sure if the bear probably, went in for it.
He didn't kill the bear.
Yeah, no, but he scared it off, which I couldn't do. I'm not downplaying that situation at all.
Was it a baby bear?
Well, I couldn't find a firsthand report at all. That's just kind of secondary reporting that's been done. So I'm going to believe it, though. I like the image of a Russian guy fighting a bear with a hammer
but a
and
little geologist's hammer.
Yeah, and he's just got on a flannel, and it's the middle of the woods, and it's snowing like crazy, like the Revenant.
Yeah, and then afterwards he killed the bear, and now he wears its skin as a coat.
Although don't kill the bear.
Oh no, bears are cute. I mean, they are like our number one natural predator.
Yes,
but
they're so
cute.
Damn cute.
They're like giant puppies. This coat is not real fur, by the way.
Oh, no.
I feel like now I need to say that. I've talked about a man wearing a bear as a coat, so.
She just can't stand up and turn around because then there's the blood stain that she got when she walked out of the store and PETA threw it on her. No.
No. This was given to me.
We can't even afford those.
And it's fake, but it's nice and cozy. It's like wearing a blanket.
So back to Yuri, who is not like wearing a blanket.
Big macho man Yuri
yes.
fights off bears.
He was impulsive, fearless, and deeply loyal to his friends. He had recently split with his girlfriend, Zanadia, which I hope I'm saying that name right. I don't have the phonetic pronunciation here. That's another member of the hiking group, which I'll get to her in a second. But the two of them had a relationship, and though that relationship had been a defining part of Yuri's life, they recently had cut it off. And his ruggedness and courage earned him a reputation as someone who would always be there in the face of dangers, no matter what. So him and his ex do still seem to have an amicable, at least somewhat, relationship going on. Based on the kind of guy that he's described to as his friends, it's not like he's just going to leave her in the dust.
Okay.
Next up, we have Lyudmila Dubinina, age 20. She was the youngest of the group, and she was studying engineering and economics, and she was known for her fierce intelligence and outspoken nature. Lyudmila's resilience was well documented. On a previous expedition, she had been accidentally shot in the leg, but instead of turning back, she insisted on continuing the hike, showing grit and determination that made her stand out in any other group going forward.
Girl power. That's what I'm talking about. Respect.
These people are all badass.
Fighting bears, getting shot in the leg, and being like, don't you carry me home. I am gonna finish this expedition, damn it.
Not only was she really into hiking, apparently, but she was also very committed to her studies, and she was especially close to a few of her fellow hikers, and she was always ready with a laugh or a witty comment to ease tensions on these difficult treks. So again, all around, just so far, they all sound like good people.
Yeah.
Especially to have in a group like this.
Yeah, I mean, they're all studying or have studied, and they sound like good people. They sound like they've got their shit together.
Yeah, they're not all just like random teenagers or young adults just wandering, doing nothing. They all seem to have a goal and plans and a future, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, so it be sometimes. The universe has its own plans, people. Yeah. Tell the ones you love that you love them.
I mean, for real, though. Next up, we have Georgy Krivonishenko, age 23. So Georgy was also known as Yuri K, and I'm probably going to just refer to him as that from now on, just because there's other Yuris and it's just easier for me to say. He worked in a top secret facility related to nuclear materials, and this fact would gain a lot of attention after the group's death once the investigation kind of unfolded, not within the actual investigation, but with a lot of speculators. That's a word, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people on the outside looking in were like, okay, well, is there something there? But within the actual investigation, there doesn't seem to be too much looked into anything with that.
Maybe it's spectators. I know that means viewer, but I don't know if it's also technically the short.
Hey, audience, let us know what a person who is speculating on something.
We can Google that shit.
Yeah, but that's going to take up too much time.
I can ask my phone to tell me the answer.
I'm going to stick with speculators. If that's not a word, it is now.
That's right.
So, yeah.
A real author makes up their own words.
So, not only did Yuri K work in a top secret facility, but he was also known as the group's life of the party. He was a prankster, a jokester, and a musician who would often play his mandolin during their hikes. So, he's the group bard.
He was a bard and a top secret spy.
Yes. Yeah. A classic bard.
No, you didn't say spy, to be fair. He just works in like nuclear radiation type stuff for some sort of secret project.
And when they say top secret, I didn't look into all of it that much, but from what I could gather, it's mostly like a top secret nuclear powering facility that was just kept secret so that information didn't get out to other countries. It's not necessarily military stuff. It was power and electricity and like power plants and things like that.
Mostly secret because it was the Cold War, not because it was a malicious project itself.
Yes. So not only was he a bard, but I mean, kind of like a bard, I guess. He was the kind of person who would always lift spirits. And whether the team was scaling a mountain or sitting around a campfire, he was just always having a carefree like nature and attitude about everything. And he could always stay lighthearted in a lot of these tough situations that you might face while out in the freezing wilderness. So he really was the group bard.
I love it.
That's amazing.
I used to bring my ukulele on our hikes, but not the winter hikes because my fingies would freeze. And I would freeze, and I would not keep so lighthearted in the winter because I would be frozen.
Yeah, we live in Ohio, so while it's not the same as northern Russian winters, it's still pretty brutal.
Yeah, unfortunately, my body is still not accustomed to our level of cold, even after living here
your whole life.
Forever. So, yeah, I get pretty freezing in the winter times.
It happens, but we get used to it.
I mean, yeah, we still go on winter hikes.
Yeah. I won't lie. Like, I complain about the winter all the time. This is a small tangent, but I love winter at this. I don't know how to describe it. I hate it, but I love it. When you just see the snow on the trees and the snow is still all fluffy and just perfectly laid outside. Now, when I have to drive to work, I guess that's the barrier there. That's when I hate it.
I love how it looks. It's very pretty. And especially if you go somewhere out in nature, like just going out to the woods in the middle of winter when there's snow and ice, like, oh, it's so breathtaking. Frozen rivers and ponds, like, I love it. But my body can't handle it. And it's hard to breathe cold air, so I can bundle up as much as I want and maybe my body will stay warm. But I start to get asthma out there after a while. Yep. So I can only handle so much of winter. And just like you said, it's the driving part. It's the having to scrape my car off and piles of snow off and let it heat up for a half hour before I can drive anywhere. And then driving on these unplowed, unsalted roads with people who don't know how to drive. And it's just terrible.
Yeah. So that's just a little insight about how we feel about winter.
If you live in the Northeast/Midwest, you know.
All right, moving on, we have Alexander Kolevatov, age 24. He was known to be quiet, studious, and somewhat enigmatic. Alexander was studying nuclear physics at the Ural Polytechnic Institute, and he had a background in classified scientific research.
Wow.
Yeah, so
these are like smart people too. They're not just people who have studied and like continued their education and gone to or are in college.
No, they're
like scientists.
Yes. Yeah. No, they really are.
Yeah.
That's why it's so fascinating to me. It's not like just like, not that it wouldn't be any less sad or any less, I guess, fascinating really, but they're not just random hikers who went on this inexperienced trek. They all knew what they were doing and were educated people.
No, I know what you're saying. It's like yeah, like you said, not to take anything away from anyone else's tragedy, but this almost gives it an edge where it's a different kind of tragic, a little bit deeper level of tragic, because it's like, man, this could have happened to anyone, but of anyone, these people are really the one group it shouldn't have happened to. They should have been able to be okay. So what the hell happened?
Yeah, no, it's fascinating.
Crazy. Yeah, it's really, really strange. I'm just in awe. Like, I know I have a lot of college degrees, but I am not as smart as I can write myself to be. I am not a scientist or mathematician by any means.
No, I can work a computer somewhat okay, but I'm not a scientist.
No, I even need your help for computers. I can do artsy things. I follow my heart.
Hey, we need more like that. Next up, we have Zinaida Kolmogorova, age 22. Zinaida was a striking figure in the group, and she was popular, athletic, and fiercely independent. She had been on several previous expeditions, and she was known for her sense of humor, her strong will, and her ability to excel in both academics and athletics. She had been in a relationship in the past, kind of like we mentioned earlier, with Yuri Doroshenko, but it had recently ended. And this added a kind of extra layer of complexity to the group dynamics, I could imagine.
Yeah, it's a little awkward. I mean, even if it was very amicable and they decided we're going to stay friends, we don't work as a couple, it's still awkward, even if not between them, for the friend group. Like, imagine the little gossip behind. It's like, oh my gosh, like, they broke up.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Like, is it gonna be weird on this trip? Like,
no, I could definitely see it.
It's one of those, it's awkward because everybody makes it awkward kind of situations, I can imagine.
Yeah. So not only that, something else I wanted to mention here that I don't want to focus on too much, but it's worth pointing out. Some do say that Igor Dyatlov, the leader of the group, admired her greatly, and that there were a lot of whispers that their bond went beyond more just than friendship. But again, all of that speculation, and I mean, they were young, so even if something was going on,
yeah,
I mean, they're
college.
all it's college, and they're clearly all going out into the wilderness together. multiple times facing these tough situations. I'm not saying that anything's fine or anything's
it's
justified,
not,
but
yeah.
at a time, if something was going to happen, they're young kids.
It was the 50s.
Yeah, it was the 50s. Who knows what was happening
Times
elsewhere?
of war.
I mean, honestly, that too. In the United States at this time, we were all scared we were going to get bombed by an atomic bomb at any moment. Who knows what they felt like?
Yeah. So, I'm not saying it's right, but it's understandable.
Yes. And that's why I don't want to.
Who knows? Who knows if it even happened?
That's why I don't want to dig in too much. It's just not worth really.
Yeah.
There's nothing you really gain out of it. And B, it's mostly just speculation.
Yeah. But even so, even if there were rumors about that at the time, even if it wasn't true, that's just another level of awkwardness where it's like, oh man, did you hear they broke up? And I heard that Igor's related to her.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. That'd be a fun Friendsgiving.
Next up, we have Rustem Slobodin, age 23. So Rustem, or Rustic as his friends called him, he was the type of person who could excel at anything he put his mind to, really. He was a well-minded individual, and he was athletic, intelligent, and musically inclined as well. Coming from a well-off family, he was known for his endurance and his ability to run long distances just for fun. Not my kind of fun.
Nope.
Not at all.
Saying earlier, I don't do the running.
No. Ugh. Despite his privileged background, Rustem was deeply grounded, and his friends described him as a dependable, steady presence in any expedition. His calm and sturdy nature made him an important pillar of any group, especially during a lot of these, again, trying times that you face in these hikes. Next up is Nikolai Thibault Brignoles. Nikolai was of French descent, adding an interesting mix to the otherwise Russian group, but he was cheerful and energetic and always known to crack a joke or lift everyone's spirits with a quick smile. He was academically gifted like most of these others, and he excelled in his studies, as well as he had an act for making friends wherever he went. His ability to brighten a room made him the perfect morale booster during these long, exhausting hikes, and his energy and humor were a welcome contrast to a lot of the grueling conditions they faced.
You've got to have the comedic relief.
It seems like slowly, though, we're getting a lot, maybe too much comedic relief the more I read into this.
It's a group of jesters and bards who happen to be geniuses and athletes as well.
No, I mean, the guy fought off a bear. They're good. That's the tank. No.
I mean, that's very impressive, though, that, like, they're all so well studied. They're all so athletic and well traversed. And they're also all, well, maybe not all, but, like, most of them are musically gifted and said to be really funny and witty. Like, it's just what well-rounded and good-sounding kids.
I mean, no,
they're
really.
all like in their 20s. They're so young.
Yeah, I know. It sucks, too. They're all, like, right on that age where it sounds so cliche, but such bright minds that who knows what they could have done.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear how smart these people are. Who knows what they could have helped with when it came to research or any sort of development.
I mean, hey, cliches become cliches for a reason. They started
really.
off true.
Yeah. Next up, so this one is, I couldn't get an actual definitive pronunciation of the name. The phonetic pronunciation says Siemyon, but I've also heard Semyon. So I don't know if it's Siemyon or Semyon, but I'm going to go with Semyon because that's kind of the way it's spelled. I don't know where they get the extra Y in that name. So you have Semyon Zolotaryov. He was kind of an outlier because his age was 38.
Oh, wow.
He was the oldest member of the group, and unlike the others, he wasn't a student. He was a World War II veteran and a survival expert. Semyon's life experiences made him a pretty intriguing addition to this team. His tattoos, which had been earned during his time as a soldier, intrigued and sometimes unsettled the younger hikers. He had a wealth of survival knowledge and was considered to be the expert of the group, though his mysterious past and slightly unconventional behavior made some of the others feel a little uneasy. Despite
Well, he's just got back from World War II. He's seen some shit. Give the guy a break.
I mean, I do kind of feel bad. It does seem like he is just this World War II vet that's like, no, I really like hiking and I'm a survival expert. I want to get in there.
Yeah,
and
he's like, I can help you, and like I know what I'm doing.
these
I
kids
want to
are like-
go decompress in the woods.
And these kids are like, that's just the old guy. Don't go by him. He makes us feel weird with his war stories.
And then, some of the kids are like, nah, that's just Bill. He's cool.
Yeah.
That guy who like works in the kitchen at your restaurant that you wait tables at.
Despite all of that, though, Semyon was trusted to guide the group through the more dangerous parts of this hike. So he was, again, the survival expert here, the one that they would put in charge, which I can see why.
I mean, yeah, the dude's been through some shit. He survived World War II, and he's a survival expert for a reason.
So those are the main 9. You might have heard me mention 10 earlier. That's because one of the students does end up leaving a little early in this expedition, but I'll still go over who they are. The 10th expeditionist is Yuri Yudin, age 21. He was, again, the 10th member and the only survivor of this because of that. And again, this wasn't because of luck. It's because he had to turn back early due to his sciatica.
Oh.
Yuri was struck with severe joint pain and was forced to abandon this expedition pretty early, and much to his dismay, he really regretted it. And for the rest of his life, moving on, Yuri carried the weight of being the only one who didn't face whatever the others did on top of that mountain.
Wow. Yeah, dude, survivor's guilt is not an easy thing.
No, and especially when we get into it, you'll see he was right up, like he was with them like 3 days before whatever, like once they finally got into the wilderness. So those were the 10 of them. Those were the 10 hikers who would press into the mountains. Again, they were friends, students, explorers. They were all experienced, and they were all determined to reach Mount Out-Orton. None of them could have imagined what was waiting them in the cold beyond Kholat Syakhl, which is the summit where they were. Their expedition would lead them on a grueling 14-day odyssey to conquer Gora Out-Orton, a mountain nestled in the heart of the Urals. Given the grade 3 certification of this hike, the challenge was far from trivial. I mean, just imagine 14 days of hiking and camping amidst the fierce embrace of the Russian wilderness and just the winter's chill. I mean, all of that.
Yeah, on mountains in northern Russia, it's got to be cold as tits.
Yeah, I think tits might be warm.
Well, but they get...
Are they the first thing to get cold?
They get pointy when they get cold.
Oh, that's
So
where
they
it comes from. I'm showing my ignorance.
They show you if it's cold. They can't be cold as balls. Balls are like the
Balls are
hottest
hot.
thing
Yeah,
ever.
no, ball.
Like temperature-wise.
Why are we talking about balls?
I don't know. This is my fault. This is my fault. I do this every time. I say inappropriate comedy.
I think balls are fine. We all have balls. Well, about like...
I do not have balls.
I was about to say about 49% of the earth has balls. Actually, it's probably less than that. I don't know how many of those 49% unfortunately lost their ball. A good percentage of the planet has balls.
Anyway, it's cold in the fucking mountains, okay? It's brutal up there. Joel, people died.
All right, so let's get into it. Their expedition would start on January 25th, 1959. On this day, the group would set off by train to the city of Ivdel in the province of, again, Sverdlovsk Oblast. Again, I hope I'm saying that right. But I spent so much time trying to get their names right, you have no idea. I'm not going to tell you this is the second time that we had to record this because of it. So I'm just happy I got their names right.
The outtakes
Oh
will
my
be
God.
hilarious to watch later.
So the group, again, once they got to Ivdel, they took some time to relax, get some supplies, and leave some writings in their journals. They all left journals. They all brought them. They had a group one, and there were a lot of individual ones. They also brought cameras. So we have a lot of pictures that we'll be able to show you of this expedition. I don't know if they'll be in the video. We might not have time to get them in that part, but they will definitely be on our newly launched website, mysterydatepodcast.com. Go there. You can see all of our podcasts, all of our video podcasts. We'll have blogs. There'll be a lot more once we get some other forms of support going, but Check it out. There'll be all the pictures listed there if you want to see what we're talking about during these episodes.
We are so excited.
Yeah. So there's going to be a few quotes here that we have read from their journal entries, and I'll have Kate do those.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they were keeping journals and taking photos. It's an expedition as well as an educational, certification process. Yeah. And it's also the 50s. I feel like journaling and writing letters and diaries, those things were a lot more common.
Oh, 100%. Then. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have you couldn't just voice message immediately your thought to somebody back then. So
people
you had
didn't have videos of themselves every day on their phones. So, yeah. Okay. Here we go. It's the last day of preparations, and everything has been quite hectic. From 11 in the morning, I was scampering between stores, buying different bits and pieces. And I was silly enough to buy 5 meters of cambric, which costs 200 rubles. I was packing in such a rush, and of course I've forgotten at home my sweater. Everyone was busy with something, and we had so many things to do. Just before our departure, those who wanted to say goodbye came to meet us. We were really short of time, but arrived at the railway station with seconds to spare. Then we had to say goodbye to everyone. Before leaving, we sang a few songs, but in the cart, Blinov group joined, and we continue singing together. Lyudmila Dubinina from her diary, January 23rd, 1959.
Now, when the group got to the city of Ivdel on the morning of January 25th, they gathered their supplies and got their route books stamped by the governing body in the area. That was pretty much more or less how they tracked their progress, is they would go to these towns or these areas and they would get their little route book stamped, and it would be a confirmation like, yes, they've come through here.
Okay.
So again, they were doing their due diligence, making sure that everything was being tracked. But after that, the group quickly left the city of Ivdel on a bus to the village of Vizhay, a few miles north. They arrived at the Vizhay village at around 2 p.m. the same day. Once the group arrived at the village, they again stamped their route books like they would do at these little areas, but this time they would stay the night in this little area. They would spend some time with the locals in this village, they would relax, and even attend the local cinema to see the film Symphony of Gold, which was a pretty popular film at the time. I looked into it a little bit. I've not seen it, but I have another little quote there for you.
After dinner, which was held in a warm, friendly atmosphere, we moved to the hotel, which was the usual hut with 3 windows. We went to the cinema, leaving home Doroshenko and Kolovatov. We watched the Symphony in Gold, came back in musical mood. Now we are busy getting ready. Tonight, according to the local commandant, we will leave on. Dyatlov Group Diary, January 25th, 1959.
Now we move on to January 26th, 1959. The group left Vizhay on this day at around 10 a.m., and they sent their last messages to their friends and family back home. Something also to note here, I read that during this time, Igor was supposed to send telegrams with mandatory checkpoint notifications of this coming trek, but there's no evidence to support that he did this. I don't know why. They seemed pretty on top of things throughout this, so I don't know what kind of misstep that was, but just something to point out.
He failed to file his paperwork, Wazowski.
That was spot on.
I gotta knock it off with these Disney references. They're gonna come for me.
Eventually they're gonna come. After Vizhay, the group arrived at a logging settlement known as District 41. They arrived at District 41 by a nearly broken down truck, which they essentially just sat in the back with all of their supplies, and it was an open area, and they were trudging through, again, snow-filled roads. It's not like they're going through a nice area at this moment. A lot of these are villages on these northern reaches here. They're not super populated by the sense.
Right.
And so they're just flying down that road with the wind beating on them on this half broken down truck as they're just bouncing up and down.
Yeah. Well, and also remember, it's the Cold War, so who knows where the nation's funds were focused. Probably not on things like small villages and fixing up roads.
No. It could not have been great.
Yeah. even if you're quote unquote winning a war, times of war are not easy or fun for anyone who lives in the countries involved.
No, especially not in these, I don't want to say poorer, but looked over areas.
Yeah.
While at District 41, the group again chatted with the locals and somehow even here watched some more movies. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but they just keep watching these movies in these remote towns. I know Ivdel isn't that remote, but District 41 is pretty remote. And they are still watching movies. And again, Symphony of Gold. That's what they
went
watched.
and saw it twice. It must have been really good.
I mean, I don't think there was too much.
Yeah, there weren't that many movies that back then.
That year.
That year. That was the only movie that came out in all of 1959. No, there were definitely not as many movie choices back then as there are today.
No, not at your home
yeah,
either.
Especially at a theater, a cinema nearby, like showing. It was probably the only thing to do in these towns that they were resting in. And they're like, well, what is there to do tonight? I mean, we're taking a break. We're hanging out. Let's go have some fun. Let's go party. And it's like, well, there's a diner and a cinema. I guess we'll get dinner and see a movie.
Yep.
That's the only thing to do in these small towns. They don't have other activities because they're small, remote towns. The other activity would be hiking or skiing, which they're currently taking a break from.
That's true.
So, movies.
So this would be the true start of their journey and their last kind of interaction with civilization. The members at District 41 that they wrote about in their diaries would be the last people to see these hikers alive besides Yuri Yudin. On January 27th, 1959, from District 41, the group would hire a sled and travel to an abandoned settlement known only as North 2.
Do you think it was a sled pulled by dogs?
I hope so. It was a guy, I think it was horse, actually. I think they hired a guy that had a horse and just brought...
Still, just like I'm picturing just like a sled carriage type thing.
It kind of was. Yeah, I mean, they put all their supplies on there. They skied next to it, and the dude with the horse helped them carry it down.
That feels like something out of a fantasy, not from a real place.
Not even that long ago. Yeah.
60 or so years ago.
Before they left District 41, one member of the expedition, Yuri Yudin, would fall ill. From what I could find from this stemmed from his sciatica, which was exacerbated by the truck ride to District 41. Yudin would tell Igor of his illness, and the two decided that if it didn't get any better by the time they reached North 2, Yuri would have to return home. He simply could not do this.
I mean, yeah, I agree. As somebody who has sciatica problems as well as other chronic pain issues, I can be very active. I can be very capable. I've gone on many a moderate hike and done crazy dance lessons and yoga poses. But when the body acts up, it acts up, and you are no longer as capable as you once were or will be again. And
especially in these conditions.
Yeah, the more you exacerbate it, the more you exacerbate it, it worsens, and a lot, and quickly, especially cramped up in sitting positions in trucks like that. Like, yeah, he would not have been able to make that trek, and he would have ended up getting left behind somewhere and probably dying of natural causes in the wilderness alone.
Exactly.
If he hadn't turned back.
No, yeah.
So, I know sciatica sounds like a small problem. It's like, oh, your back is kind of sore because, like, your knee muscles are a little weak. Like, get over it. But things can worsen, and, like, one thing leads to another. And especially
it's
in those conditions, like, you can't be trying to climb a mountain and cross-country ski 190 miles if you're in a bunch of pain.
It does not work.
But still, I mean, as fortunate as he was, that happened to him, because in the end, it means he turned back and survived.
Yeah.
It's also maybe the most unfortunate thing, because A, he was so passionate and trained and prepared for this, and then he didn't get to partake. So it felt like he probably felt like he was left out of this lifelong dream. And even if he knew he would get the chance to do it again, he's like, well, this is my group. These are my friends I wanted to do it with. Like, it's probably already bad enough for him. And then when he finds out that they all died, he probably had just horrible survivor's guilt.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into it in a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll talk about his
so
survivor
young.
story.
Ugh. They're
So,
all so young.
oh my gosh, it really just adds a sense of tragedy to this.
Even the oldest guy, he's in his
Only
30s.
38, yep. And he just survived World War II.
For real. Like, just... I don't understand. I don't pretend to understand the universe and its ways.
So the party travels the 15 miles by skis and sled to North 2. When the group arrived at North 2 on January 27th, that same day, it was decided that Yuri Yudin would depart from this expedition due to his illness. He tried, but by the time they got there, it was just too much. This would mean that the original 10 members was now down to 9. Now, North 2 was where the real bulk of this began. They were not in any more formal settlements after this, and it would just be the harsh wilderness greeting them from here on out. Now, on January 28th, 1959, the group would leave North 2 and continue on in their hike without Yuri, who would leave the same day and head back to the other settlements.
It's getting dark. The horse is causing the delay. Yuri Yudin is still with us. He suddenly fell ill, and he can't continue with the trek. He wants to gather few minerals for the university and return. Second north is an abandoned geological site consisting of 20 to 25 houses. Only one is suitable for living. In complete darkness, we found a village and the house. We started a fire with wood boards. Smoke came from the stove. Several people hurt their hands on old nails. Everything is well. Then the horse came. We were talking and joking till 3 a.m. Dyatlov Group Diary.
Yeah, everybody got tetanus, but all was well. No.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird transition. It was just, things are chaotic. The horse is late. Yuri's fallen ill. There's only one house suitable. The stove is smoking. Everybody's getting hurt hands on these nails. Everything is great.
We're in high spirits, which that's kind of cool, though. It shows that these people really loved this.
Yeah, either that or it was sarcasm.
That too. I mean, it is a translation, so who knows?
All these people were claimed to have been humorous and witty. They could have been being sarcastic. Like, all these shit chaotic things are happening today. All is well. We were giggling until 3 a.m. Like, they were up with headaches till 3 a.m. Hand aches.
So now that they left North 2 on January 28th, the hikers would trek 6 miles from North 2 and set up their tents at around 5:30 p.m. along the Ospia River that same night. From all accounts from the hikers' diaries this night and the following nights would go relatively according to plan. Everything was seemingly okay. On January 29th, 1959, the following day, the men of the group would take turns cutting a trail into the snow for the hikers to follow, and they would do this for quite some time, stopping nearly every hour to rest. After taking lunch that day, the group would begin to take a local Mansi trail that was made throughout the forest. During this trail, the hikers would come across several Mansi signs made out of wood and string, sometimes referred to as labaz, which were essentially raised platforms that the Mansi people would use to store a lot of their hunted game. And you're probably like, what the hell are Mansi people? So we're going to take a brief moment.
I was going to ask, and a Mansi is?
Yes. So we're going to take a brief moment to learn about the locals known as the Mansi people. And this won't be too relevant for right now, but it comes into play a little bit later, so just bear with us. So the Mansi people are an indigenous group of natives to this area, and they have been in this region since around 500 AD. Today, they have a reported census of around 21,000 people in Russia and around 50 people in Ukraine. So that's it, not some deep history lesson, just a brief overview.
Yeah, I figured it was probably a native tribe-esque sort of group.
So back to the story. On January 29th was also one of the hikers' birthdays. Yuri Durashenko, so, the group would spend the night in pretty high spirits, I'd say. Something that would be but a distant memory, though, in only a few days. So at least it was something nice they could look back on.
Today is Yurka's birthday. We go first to Lazva, then we turn to Auspaya. Surroundings are beautiful. Along the Auspaya Mansi I have passed. A trail is visible. Grooves, a path is visible. We often see Mansi signs on the trail. I wonder what they write about. Now the Mansi Trail goes south. Zina Kolmogorova's diary, January 29th, 1959. Zina is short for Zinaida, I'm assuming.
Yes. So the following day, on January 30th, this went by pretty smoothly, like I said. The most reported days of this expedition went by without pretty much a hitch. It was pretty cold this day, from what I could find from a lot of the hikers' diary entries. But the hikers set off around 9 a.m. and trekked along the Ospaya River. Along the way, the group would continue to report Mansi signs throughout the wilderness.
Yes, Mansi, Mansi, Mansi. This word comes up more and more often in our conversations. Mansi are the people of the north. Small Khanty-Mansi nation located in Salahard with 8,000 population. Very interesting and unique people that inhabit the northern polar Ural, close to the Tyumen region. They have a written language and leave characteristic signs on forest trees. Dyatlov Group Diary, January 30th, 1959.
Just another note, on January 30th, this was also Kolovatov's birthday, so they gave him a tangerine. I thought that was funny. They wrote that in one of their diaries.
Happy birthday, here's an orange. We don't know how to make cake, sorry.
Yeah.
But somehow we procured an orange in the freaking winter mountain.
It'd be pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
On January 31st, 1959, the weather had gotten worse, and while it wasn't actively snowing, the wind had been blowing hard and pushing snow from the pines. This was creating a small blizzard-like effect in the area.
Oh yeah, snowdrifts can be pretty crazy. I mean, we get them here not in the mountains, just near the lake in Ohio, where in the winter, if there's a foot of snow, drifts can get several feet high, and there can be crazy dips and weird landscape things happening where you actually don't know where there's a hill and where there's not because of the snow drifts. So I can't imagine on a mountainside.
No, that'd be terrible.
Like you said, Russian mountains probably have way worse winter
than where we're at.
Yeah, they probably have way worse conditions than our winters.
Yeah. So the hikers would attempt to ascend the mountain pretty quickly, making their way from the Ospaya River to the Lozva River. And the weather would prove to be too much of an issue on this day, however, and they would not be able to continue their hike. With the weather getting worse, especially as they ascend from where they're at, they decided that they would head back down to the Ospaya River and set up camp there, where it would be a little bit more forgiving. Here, Igor would lay out a plan for the next steps of their journey, and they would make a small little labaz, again, a storage area, where they would secure most of their non-essential belongings. This was a standard thing to do on a multi-day hike like this. It was actually important as it helps lighten the load for the more intense legs of this journey. Then they would continue to Mount Oud-Orton, their destination for the hike, without descending from the pass. So Igor was proposing that, this is an interesting thing to note, this was not standard or what they intended to do at first, but Igor had this other idea where instead of descending from the pass, they would ride up from the ridge and use the top of the ridge that would be frozen over from this harsher weather. And since most of their gear left behind, the weight would be able to support them and they'd be okay on this ridge.
Sounds a little risky, but also they are expert people, so
yeah. And I mean, you have
out of the question.
You have the one guy who's the survival expert, so I'm sure he thought into it and they talked about it. But
yeah, somebody would have put a stop to the idea if they really all thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah. Normally, though, you would just hike up the Lozva River, but instead the group would, again, continue to pass on the ridge. So they would normally go almost down. I'll have a map on the website, too, and I'll try to post that on the video that you guys can kind of follow along.
It'll be right here.
Yes. I can actually show you, Kate. So normally...
Oh, I thought it was going to be like an old-timey map.
No.
And it's just Google Maps.
No, it's just Google Maps. So normally you can see there where they kind of take that left branch. Do you see that purple path? That's where they were supposed to go, kind of down around that slope. And they were going to go up and around that way. But instead, Igor wanted to go up on that ridge.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not too far off path. It's just a slightly different, slightly parallel path.
And that's some pictures of the group as well.
There's a puppy.
And you can see, if you check out on our website, again, mysterydatepodcast.com, you can see all these pictures that I'm showing Kate and then that we're looking at. We'll post them there. And it's fascinating because they took pictures on pretty much every leg of this journey and on every day. And they had 5 cameras that were known about on them. So everyone was documenting a lot. Between this and the diaries, there's just so much information that is around this case. It's fascinating.
They look like they're having such a good time.
Yeah. It's sad. And if you do go to our website, we won't post any of the postmortem photos that we'll talk about in a little bit, but you can see those at dyatlovpass.com, which is part of a foundation that is set up to pretty much keep this memory alive, which we'll talk about later.
Wow. And yeah, these photos are crazy. I mean, granted, they're old black and white photos from 1959, but you can tell how snowy it was.
Oh, yeah.
And see these skis sticking out of the snow, see them trying to dig a trench for themselves in this snow, and how you see them in their gear as shadows, and everything else is just snow.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah.
So that was the plan that Igor had laid out. Again, they would go up on the ridge instead of descending to the Ospaya River and pretty much ditching that plan. And since they would lighten their load tonight, then tomorrow that ridge would be pretty easy for them to pass on. So the next day, February 1st, 1959, the group got a late start as they constructed their labaz and were on their way. During this part of the hike is when they, according to Dyatlov's new plan, trek 500 meters off course of their original path. The group then continues on this trek, covering only 2 kilometers or only 1 mile due to the intense weather. A member of the group at this time has also sustained a leg injury and needed to be assisted, so that didn't really help their pace at all.
Ooh, yeah, that's not going to make it any easier to get up that ridge either.
No. And it was during this night that the group would pitch their tent on the northern slope of Kholat Syakhl, a mountain whose name is a transliteration of the Mansi language, meaning dead mountain or silent peak.
Okay, that's ominous.
Yeah.
The Mansi people call it the dead mountain or the silent peak. And that's where these people go missing and then die under extremely bizarre circumstances.
Igor and the group were set to write a note that was again going to be placed at the peak of Mount Oud-Orton to signify that they had reached their destination. Whether or not they meant to, what the group ended up writing would become known as the Evening Oud-Orton No. 1. From what I've read, and from what most researchers agree on, this was merely just a satirical newspaper, essentially, that they wrote. Something in good fun. On it, there are articles and random information that reads like a traditional newspaper would. This would be the last piece of writing that the group would make. No one would ever hear from the Dyatlov group ever again after this. So what happened next? The Dyatlov group was due back on February 12th, 1959. This day would come and pass and no one would show. Days would pass and officials were aware that the hikers had missed their return day. They were not immediately alarmed, however. Another hiking group that was mentioned in one of those diary entries, they had just returned and informed authorities of a bad snowstorm that was rising in the area. Due to this, the officials thought that the Dyatlov group was simply delayed and that they would return whenever they could wait out the storm. This was not the case. More days would pass and no one had any information of the group or their whereabouts. To make things even worse, apparently Igor never sent the official planned route that these hikers were going on to the authorities. So no one truly knew where they were.
And even if he had sent that, they changed their plans through their hike and were only documenting it in the diary on their persons.
Yep.
So no one would have known anyway. They went off path. They changed plans.
Now, during this time, the relatives of the lost hikers were furious that the officials were not really doing anything, and they demanded that something be done. And this is pretty fucked up in my mind, but at one point, the head of the sports club that the hikers were a part of reportedly lied and told the parents of Lyudmila that Igor Dyatlov had sent them a telegram warning of their delay and not to worry.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's one thing to kind of tell the white lie of they're just delayed, nothing to worry about. You know, there's a storm, they're just delayed. Even if you don't know that's the case. But to straight up add the, no, I've received a telegram that says they're okay and they're just delayed. That is fucked up.
It's really fucked up.
Like, dude.
Finally, on February 21st, 1959, after much pressure from the families of those who were lost, the Soviet government initiated a search mission. It wouldn't be until February 26th, so 5 days after the search had started, that two men would make a shocking discovery. After days of searching the area and struggling to find any sign of the hikers, a man named Boris Slobstov and his group would come across a familiar tent jutting out of the snow. Now, Boris knew this tent because he helped make it. He was a member of the sports club, and he was one of the students who originally fashioned that tent together.
So he knew right away that it was them.
So he knew as soon as he spotted it that this was the Dyatlov group's tent. And now the mystery would begin. What Boris would discover unleashed a flurry of events that even today baffle investigators and researchers. The tent of the Dyatlov group was found in a distressed state, and it was torn from one side, looking like it had been slashed with a blade. And when this would be later examined, it would be determined that it was cut from the inside. This indicated that it was done by one of the members of the group. And this wasn't just one cut either. The tent was slashed up.
Like desperately trying to get out.
Yeah. Near the entrance to the tent, searchers would find the newspaper-like article written by the hikers on February 1st. And after that discovery, the searchers would find footprints nearby. They would deduct from these footprints that the sets were wearing boots and the other one were just barefoot. They would quickly lose track of these through the snow that ended up covering them, but it was the discovery of the tent that would quickly prompt an official investigation into this matter. On February 27th, the day after the discovery of the tent, at around 11 a.m., about a half mile away from where the tent was, two men discovered the first two bodies of the hikers. These were the bodies of Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko. The two men described the discovery of the bodies as follows. Krivonishenko's right leg has no footwear. On his left foot, there is a brown sock torn. Another sock like this was discovered half burnt next to the fire. On the backs of his hands, the skin is torn. Between the fingers, there is blood. The index finger is also torn. The skin of the left shin is torn and covered in blood. There are no more visible injuries on his body. Doroshenko has woolen socks on his feet, and over the socks, another lighter sock. His ear, lips, and nose are covered in blood, and on his left hand, the middle finger is bloody. The two Yuris were discovered shoeless and dressed only in basically underwear underneath a cedar tree. The cedar tree where they were found had broken branches up to 16 feet up, implying that someone might have tried to climb it. This gave, again, the impression that maybe both of the hikers attempted to do this in a desperation. That same day, 300 meters away from the cedar tree, close to the Dyatlov group's tent, Igor Dyatlov's body would be discovered with his face up in a position that suggested he was moving at the time of his death. Igor was dressed in a fur vest, a collared shirt, underwear, ski pants, and he had no gloves, shoe, or hat. On his wrist was his watch that stopped at 5:31. Later, the body of Zinaida Kolmogrova would be discovered even closer to the tent by a search dog. She was found partially clothed and in a huddled position. The clothes she was wearing would also later be discovered to belong to other members of the group, mainly Yuri Krivonishenko. So she was found wearing someone else's clothes. So by February 27th, the body of Dyatlov, Kolmogrova, Doroshenko, and Krivonishenko had all been found. Months later, the father of Rustem Slobodin, who was a university professor, joined the search party looking for these students of the lost Dyatlov group. Rustem's father claimed to have a special bond with his son, and they shared a love for the mountains, hiking and traveling. They accomplished great feats together, completing various difficult hikes throughout the region. After spending days searching for his son, Rustem's father left the search and returned home on March 4th, 1959. On March 5th, 1959, Rustem Slobodin's body would be discovered. Slobodin was 480 meters away from the cedar tree where the two Yuris were discovered. He was found face down with his left hand extended out. The remainder of the hikers wouldn't be discovered until months later. On May 5th, 1959, once the weather had taken a turn for more warm, searchers probed an area around 50 meters away from the cedar tree where the Yuris were found, and they came out with a fragment of flesh. So they basically stuck a pole down there, and then when they pulled it up, they found flesh on it. The searchers began to dig in this snow and eventually would discover the bodies of Lyudmila. She was crouched against the ravine wall with her face against a rock. Her mouth was open and she was wearing several layers of clothes, but not really what you would expect for this kind of weather. She was found to be missing her ears, tongue, and soft tissue from various parts of her body and suffered a lot of trauma to her ribs and chest. Shortly after her body was found, the remainder of the hikers would also be discovered. Close to where she was, searchers found the bodies of Nikolai, Alexander, and Semyon. They would be brought out of that same ravine where she was, and Semyon was found to be missing his eye and soft tissue around his face, and he had an open wound on the right side of his skull. His chest was caved in, and he suffered very similar injuries to Lyudmila. Something interesting to note here, it does seem that he was found with a sixth camera that was unknown to apparently most of the members of the group, according to Yuri Yudin, who later came out and spoke on that. The film on this camera, though, was unfortunately damaged by water, and what was on that camera remains a mystery to today.
Just another layer of an unknown.
Yep. Alexander was found with missing soft tissue around his eyes, and his eyebrows were missing and his skull was exposed. He had an open wound behind his ear and his neck was pretty deformed. His skin was said to be a shade of gray and green with a tinge of purple. Now, Nikolai was found with multiple fractures to his skull and bruising on his forearms. It was with that discovery that, while not solved, at least the Dyatlov hikers would be brought home to rest, bringing a small sense of closure to their families. And with that, we're going to end the main story of Part 1. Part 2 will pick up with the investigation and theories surrounding it.
Damn.
Again, 9 people lost their lives on that mountain.
And it sounds like it was really horrible.
Yeah.
And painful. Oh, yikes. We've talked about the dangers of the woods before, but yikes.
Dude, for real. I don't even know how we come back from that. But that's why we have Date Night Debrief. All right. So real quick, before we get into the investigation, just based off of what you know, I do want to ask, you don't have to dive into it too much because we'll do theories and stuff, in the next episode, but what do you think happened? Just if you had to give a quick...
Just from what you've talked about so far, I think it sounds likely that either some sort of creature or creatures, like maybe a pack of wolves or mountain lions or bears or who knows, found their tent. They were sleeping. It was nighttime. Some of them scrambled as quickly as they could to throw some layers on before running out, while some of them didn't bother with that and just instead tried to slash the tent open and get out as quickly as possible. Maybe their zipper or buttons or whatever were too finicky. They're like, fuck it, just
go, yeah.
Yeah, and some of them are like, I need socks. What are you guys doing? We can't go out there like this. We'll die. And so then they either fled from these creatures. Some of them maybe got attacked a little bit. Some of them maybe fell into that ravine, and that's why they were so banged up. Some of them tried to climb the tree to escape the animals, but kept falling, or the animals climbed too, and that's why those branches were broken and they were beat up.
No, I could see that.
Yeah, so I think that's a possibility. Or a similar situation, but not a pack of animals, some sort of group of people. Again, it was the Cold War in the remote Soviet Union mountains.
Fair.
A lot of these people were working in radiation and nuclear physics and engineering, things like that. some of them were working for quote unquote top secret entities. It just, who knows what could have really been at play there as far as government and war are concerned. So it could have been something to do with that. Maybe they were targeted or were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they were too close to something that was actually top secret, concerned with Cold War shit. Maybe one of them was involved in something a little bit more sketchy, but that's another possibility, I think.
So you think it's an outside source, like something, whether it be an animal or human, encountered them, and that's what kind of...
Oh yeah, I think that something showed up and freaked them the fuck out, and they fled, and they were like, we need to get out of this tent ASAP. The buttons, the zipper is taking too long. Just cut that bitch open and go. Some of them didn't have time to get dressed.
Maybe
from
some
their
of them
sleeping
fell,
bags.
and that's why they have some of these injuries.
And yeah, they're scrambling. They're getting scraped by random thickets. Maybe it's snowing outside really hard, and when it's snowing hard enough, you're getting wind chapped. You're getting little ice pellets and snow that might cut your skin a little. They're not going to be deep wounds, but little superficial scrapes and cuts. Falling, and especially some of them were found in a ravine. Who knows if they fell down there and that's how they got all bruised or bent and broken, and who knows if it's not creatures, and if it's people, then perhaps some body parts were taken for either some sort of fucked up scientific tests or something, or animals could have come and eaten them once they were down.
Yeah, well, let's save all that.
That's what I'm thinking so far.
Let's save some of that spicier stuff there for next episode.
Oh,
because it's going to get spicy. There's a lot of theories I'm sure you could guess. But now actual date night debrief here. After we got the story out of there. I'm not going to give my thoughts on the story. I know what the investigation led. I'll give my actual thoughts on it at the end of part 2. But for date night debrief, here's the question. What do you think can strengthen our relationship in the future?
Ooh, nothing. We're perfect. No,
I will definitely take that. I'm not going to say no
I'll
to
try to
being
take
perfect.
it seriously. I'll try to take it seriously. What could help strengthen our relationship in the future? Well, I got a 2-part answer. A, continue doing the good things we do now. I mean, we're very good to each other. We're considerate. We spend time together. We communicate very well. So continuing all of that. And then something else that I think will strengthen our relationship even more is when we get to the point financially in our creative endeavors and careers that we don't need day jobs anymore. So all of our time is kind of our own time. And yes, we'll still work. We run businesses. We run a podcast. It takes effort. It takes work.
It takes a lot of work.
I mean, yeah, not just this, but wedding photography and videography is a lot of work. Writing novels is a lot of work. So, but I think that if we can get to the point where we're not also working day jobs and worrying, well, not worrying about finances, but
having to think about them as much as we do. Yeah.
To have the day job so that we're not stressed in our creative endeavors. I think when we get to that point, we will grow even closer.
Oh, yeah.
And just find even more things we love about hanging out together, because we'll have even more time to spend with each other and on those creative endeavors and on encouraging each other's creative endeavors. So I think that'll be a good boosting turning point for us in a few years.
100%. I didn't want to sound materialistic, but I think we're pretty great, as you said. So, I mean, nothing. We're perfect.
Yeah.
But in reality, mine was financial just stability, like more financial stability. Just having the point, like you said, to where we don't have to go to these full-time jobs, where we can both put in the effort into both of our creative endeavors, whether it's photography or videography or the podcast or whatever, a combination of all of it. That will allow us to not have to spend 8 hours away from each other.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, it's cheesy, but we really like spending time together. And even though we already do so much together and we cook dinner together every night, we do our podcast together, we run photography and videography business together, We help each other with our writing of novels and of screenplays. It's not enough. I
No.
miss him when I'm at work.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday.
Our desks downstairs where we work, they're right next to each other.
Oh, yeah.
For
our
a reason.
little writing and gaming desks, they are actually one big desk, and our seats are next to each other with our monitors.
Yeah.
I don't want to be away from him.
No. This mothership is just us two, and I want it to stay that way. I don't want to have to leave it to go somewhere.
Yeah. Just us and our dogs, the way it's meant to be.
Well, I think we'll save free talk till next episode because we've gone a little bit long. Both of these will probably be a little kind of longer episodes than normal.
One thing for free talk is, you mentioned it earlier, but I just wanted to shout it out again. We have a website now.
Yes. Oh, no, that's a great free talk. Yes.
We have a website now, mysterydatepodcast.com.
Yep.
And a little sneaky peeky of what's to come maybe next time is we are getting ready to launch a Patreon as well for some added bonus goodies for our viewers and listeners who love what we have. So hopefully we'll have that up and running by next time, or definitely the time after that. And keep an eye out and support us and see what we've got to offer you, because we love doing this. We want to grow and continue to be able to do this.
Yes, and we love all your support, whether it's the comments, people following us, subscribing to us. We appreciate every little bit of it. So don't feel like even when we launch the Patreon that you're not going to go noticed by not donating to that. No. Every little thing that you do to support us is very much acknowledged and appreciated by us. So thank you.
Yes, we are happy dance people for the little things in
Exactly.
life.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us, and be sure to come back every other week for a brand new episode and a brand new mystery.
We hope you all enjoyed part 1 of the Dyatlov Pass episodes, and make sure to follow us on social media at Mystery Date Podcast, and check out our website, mysterydatepodcast.com.
Also, real quick, on our mysterydatepodcast.com, you can leave us a voice message if you want, and we may or may not end up listening to those during the show. So that'll be something fun that we can do.
Yes, but please go visit the website, leave us a voice message, follow us on social media, give us a comment, shoot us a DM. We love hearing your episode ideas and your feedback, your little love notes. And we can also receive those via email, mysterydatepodcast@gmail.com. Reach out and find us.
Yes, and you can send episode ideas, like she said, all of the good stuff to that email. Just give us anything. We want to hear from you. But be sure to share this podcast with your friends or even your enemies. We're not going to judge. We just want you to get our name out there, and we appreciate it. Also, be sure to leave a comment answering our date night debrief question. What's something that you can do in your relationship for the future to make things a little better?
And not even just romantic relationships.
No,
Maybe
even
it's
your
a
friendship.
relationship with your parent or your child, or with your best friend.
Yeah.
With your coworkers, with your boss, you know?
Exactly.
There's all kinds of relationships out there, and they all need nurtured. All right? Different forms of love, people.
Well, that's about all. So be safe and have a great rest of your day or night.
And remember,
Every good mystery deserves a date.
Bye.